Hello guys, I'm Nurseytf2. I have a lot of experience playing Team Fortress 2, and a majority of that is medic in Team Fortress 2. For those of you who aren't aware of my background, I've been playing competitive TF2 for a while now. This may set some alarms off for some people, that I'm some mega TF2 tryhard, and I only want what's best for the competitive side, but that's not what I'm here talking about. I have an estimated 13,000 hours in TF2. A majority of those hours are through playing the game through public gaming servers, also known as pubs. I've played a lot of Highlander, I've played a lot of 66, RGL 77 League, and a lot of other random nonsense. I want to say I have a pretty solid idea for what's good for the general scene of this game. Now that I gave you a bunch of reasons why it might be a good idea to hear where I'm coming from, I'm going to come out and immediately talk about what's going on through my mind here with Medic. The Medic has an unlock problem, much worse than any other class played in the game in my opinion. In almost every game mode I've ever played, and yes, this is including pubs, the most optimal Medic loadout remained the same in every single game mode. His optimal loadout will always be crossbow, minigun, and ubersaw. Scout at the very least has secondaries he can mess around with. Soldier has his rocket launchers, backpacks, and 3 viable melee weapons. Power has viable primaries, secondaries, and still a few good melees. Demonite literally has a whole another role where he becomes a Demonite. Heavy has his different miniguns and melee weapons that affect his speed. Engineer become a combat engineer simply by changing his melee weapon, and he still has viable primaries to boot with that. Sniper has good primaries, secondaries, and only lacks in the melee department. For the Spy, even with the Ambassador and Dagger nerf, those unlocks still see use, along with his other unlocks. The Medic literally cannot run any other unlocks besides possibly the Blitzkrieg, without being seen as dumb or they're throwing. I'm going to start this video off going into detail about the primaries for Medic and how I would like to personally see them changed, while going into my own philosophy on how weapons should be balanced. I hope my many hours experience can resonate within some of you, and I'm hoping just to have my voice heard a little bit. Let's move on to the primaries now, starting off with what I believe to have the saddest story, the Bloodsucker. The Bloodsucker, also known as the Bloodsucker, is literally the worst primary. I mean, there's not really a lot of competition on which one is the worst primary, as there's only 4 of them, but it's still the worst. I know some people are going to be confused as to why I'm immediately calling this the worst, but hear me out. It's a very fun weapon to go around with and just shoot stuff. The HP replenish factor on it is honestly just hilarious, and it's fun. That's the downside of it though. It's only fun to shoot, and only fun to shoot at the enemy team. The only thing you're pretty much getting back is HP you lose from running this weapon in the first place. The only upside to it is when you can manage a good portion of the clip and see a pretty decent chunk in HP come back. But that's literally it as far as the benefits go. There's a reason why this weapon is purely known for battle medics. In a more serious sense, running this weapon as an actual medic is pretty much useless. You're just putting yourself at a disadvantage. I'll go into more detail later on about at least why the other unlocks are just straight up better to run than this one. I just want people to understand, unless you're a giant nerd and have some sick DM skills on medic, you're just losing with this weapon equipped. I'm going to straight up say it now, but compared to the crossbow, this weapon literally has nothing on it. I'm going to argue that nerfing the crossbow to be as bad as this weapon would be the worst idea on the planet. So let's say, why don't we buff this weapon and all the others to be as good as the crossbow? The ideal way for me to buff this weapon would be to honestly late game 1% ubercharge on hit. Decrease the ammo size by about 50% or down to about 25 shots per clip. That way it would complement the ubersaw pretty well. Increase the reload speed on it so the weapon still feels like an efficient weapon. This would be rewarding to those with good aim with a weapon that's harsh to aim as a needle gun. It would still be a good self-defense tool, and it wouldn't alienate those who consider this the battle medic primary. I honestly believe this to be best for a buff for this weapon, but don't be afraid to discuss about this more in the comment section below or in my Discord. I'm going to move on to the second saddest primary now, the stock needles. Stock needles have literally existed for as long as this class has existed. This is the weapon you start off with when you start playing a game and it's not very good. While I think it serves a better purpose than the Bloodsucker does, that's not really saying anything because it still sucks. The DPS on this weapon, and honestly most range guns, is actually pretty good. It's not that bad of a self-defense weapon. This weapon I would say is completely worthless, but compared to the Overdose, and especially the crossbow, it really does stand no chance. In most serious scenarios, when you're going to be playing medic seriously, this weapon won't accomplish anything. I would rate it better than the Bloodsucker for the simple fact that you're not passively hurting yourself at least. Other than that, yeah, that's really why I would say it's better than the Bloodsucker. If you have decent syringe gun DM and you really don't want to run the crossbow, then I guess this is your best bet. I won't lie, I actually think running around with this weapon is actually pretty fun, but again, when I'm trying to actually be serious, I only win one primary, and I would never dare touch this weapon or the Bloodsucker outside the pure purpose to mess around. If I were to change this weapon, I think boosting the ammo count up to 50 to actually match up the amount of ammo holds would be pretty nice. It's actually really odd how this syringe gun ammo works. 40 shots per clip but 150 max. I say only bump the ammo count up because I actually find it already a pretty nifty self-defense weapon, and that's why I figured primaries are meant to be for medic. On top of all that, with how I want to rebalance the rest of the weapons, I think just the ammo boost would be fine. Just making it and keeping it as a solid self-defense weapon should be good enough. It's just unfortunate Valve decided to make 2 unlocks that actually benefit medics at, being a medic. Let's move on to a weapon that actually saw some use until the Crusader crossbow became absolutely busted, the Overdose. The Overdose is an interesting weapon. Before the Great Crossbow buff, the buff where God Uberon hit, this weapon was actually viable. It was a pretty unique weapon, and it wasn't too strange to see some top medics run the weapon. This speed boost is pretty good for dodging, for the medic to catch up to his team, and honestly a better self-defense weapon than the crossbow. Another unique thing about this weapon is it actually got buffed so it could be ran more again. But unfortunately, gaining uber charge on hit with the crossbow is just too strong. Not only is the crossbow still too strong, you also move at a scout speed when you're healing them. This makes the speed effect of this weapon pretty much useless. This is the second best medic primary as it still sees benefit from being ran, and still be a decent self-defense weapon. If things were kept that simple though, this would be the best unlock. Unfortunately, the biggest downside of this weapon is that the stuff you gain with it isn't abusable unless you have it out. The 20% movement speed is actually really great. With the buff it has now, and if the overcharge on hit that happens to the crossbow, it would easily be ran nearly half and half of the crossbow, maybe even more. As much as it sucks, this should make it really easy to buff it. The way I would like to see this weapon buffed is to actually make it passive instead of need to have the weapon out. I do feel that having 20% increased movement speed could probably be too strong, so knocking it down to 10% would probably be a pretty good idea. The ammo clip size should be shot down at 25 per clip, but by that point I wouldn't get rid of the damage. I would keep the damage the same. This would boost medics in a lot of areas and not give them a bad self-defense option. I think losing burst healing for this would actually not be too bad. Even then, the top level primary still needs to be handled. Next we'll talk about the crossbow. I really don't have to say anything about this weapon, as I believe most people would understand how amazingly powerful this weapon is. For those that really don't understand, this weapon is insanely powerful due to its burst healing. The burst healing being you can instantly heal almost any class in the game with a single syringe. While some of you may immediately be thinking, well yeah, that should be the reward for hitting a good arrow. Let me tell you, hitting some sick arrows, that is pretty cool. Hitting an arrow on someone staying still, understandably really easy. Yet they both have the same reward. The guy is getting a lot of health. On top of this, you can get uber charge. While that aspect has been nerfed since its first gained the ability, the fact that you get uber at all is really strong. Obviously the best medic primary available. In 6v6 it's way too useful. In Highlander, way too good. Pubs, still way too good. Even in some of the whacker TF2 game modes, it's still way too strong, except for MVM. The biggest downside of this weapon is that it's not a very good self-defense weapon, but it's still a really good spam weapon. It can do minus 75 damage across the map, which is honestly better than some of the spam classes in the game. It has passive reload too, and again, you gain uber charge when you shoot the thing at your team. While I know I was just hyping this weapon up a lot, I would still rather not be nerfed too hard. That's a fun mechanic for medic. It's also an object that lets medic become a carry factor. I think things would be much better if the healing was halved. As weapon currently works, the amount you heal your teammates is double the amount of damage you have done to an enemy. If you were to hit an enemy for 75 damage, you would heal your teammates for 150 damage. I think the healing should be equal to what the damage you do to an enemy is. With that, on top of the other buffs I suggested for the needle guns, I think this would make the primaries a lot more varied than the least. Even if my ideas aren't the most amazing, hope I got my point across as what I want done with these weapons. Something should be done, but don't try to ruin all the unlocks of the process, you know? I trust Valve to actually be able to do something about it, even though I know plenty would argue against that. That's pretty much all I have to say about the primaries. I believe medic suffers the most from not having a lot of unlocks to switch off of, and it can really affect how much people want to play the class. The lack of variety can be very dissuading. The class can be very repetitive and monotonous. Medic is literally the most fun I've had playing any support in any game. I think the fact that no matter how stale the class may be, I still find myself still playing the class a lot. Even after all these years of running the same loadout, I still continue to main this class because I find it the most amusing to play and the most rewarding to me personally. I wish for more people to enjoy the class as much as I do, and the added variety can help boost it a lot more. Anyway, thank you guys a ton for watching the video. I greatly appreciate it. Huge shouts to my subscribers on Twitch for reaching the sub goal to make this video. I'm also very sorry for how long it was to take this video to come out. I'm pretty bad at editing, as you can probably tell. It's not nearly as much as the editing though, as it is to record the clips, write the script, and constantly record the audio. To avoid this issue of videos taking forever to come out, I'm going to try to work on videos constantly instead of waiting until a sub goal is reached. This should make the process much quicker. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to give me the classic like and subscribe, helps a lot. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.